Hey everyone, thank you so much for being here. Before we kick off this week's episode, just a quick ask. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell to make sure that you never miss an episode, never miss out on any of the strategies and tactics that we're sharing to help you continue charting your own path to freedom. And if you'd like to go deeper with any of this, we've launched a free Facebook group, which you can join at pathtofreedom.com/group. And we've linked that in the show notes to make it easy for you to find. All right. Thank you again for being here. Let's drop in to the episode. Hey, what's up, everyone? And welcome back to the Path to Freedom podcast. Today, I'm joined by Will Bartholomew. Will is the founder and CEO of D1 Sports Training. So with that, Will, thank you for being here, man. I really appreciate it.
Man, thanks. I love the name of it, Path to Freedom. That's what we all want. That's what we all want.
It's kind of funny because like before I got into franchise consulting, I worked on the franchisor side. So I've been around franchising for like a decade at this point. And, you know, I knew when I was getting into consulting, like, all right, I got to have a name for my business. And all the other Fran names were taken, you know, Fran this, Fran that. So I was limited on my options there. But really it was I did some thinking, and like in all my time selling franchises, I realized that some of the best people I'd worked with that had gone on to become franchisees and be really successful, they didn't set out looking for a franchise. Like they weren't sitting around researching, you know, franchise opportunities. They weren't looking for the best franchise podcast out there. So I kind of did it intentionally, I guess, not to box myself in, because I think there's a lot of people out there that they just haven't taken the time to really research franchising. So they think it's fast food restaurants and not much more. And so they never really look at it. And it's part of the reason I love having guys like you come on that have created this awesome brand. And it's probably not on nearly as many people's radars as it should be. Right. So, anyways, that's the backstory of how the name came to be.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
But you guys have a great name too, right? Because it is kind of, you know, explanatory of what you guys do. So for the listeners that may not be familiar with D1 Sports Training, give us kind of the quick overview. What do you guys do?
Yeah. So our why, like, why are we here? We're here to inspire and motivate athletes to reach their goals. Inspire and motivate athletes to reach their goals. Now, how do we do that? We do that with great coaching. We do it through 8-week programs. We do it in 4,000 square foot facilities with weight racks similar to a D1 college, turf similar to a D1 college, world-class coaching, some banging music. We always got to have great tunes going. Got to. That's the biggest fights in the D1 weight room is the music. And, man, we help people reach their goals in there. But, you know, what do we do? I mean, we train people. We're great coaches that train people at the end of the day.
Now, are you guys geared at like a certain kind of demographic, right? Like, is this for kids? Is this for college athletes, high school athletes? Can adults come and train? Like who are you kind of catering this to?
Yeah, the genesis of the business. So the beginning, I started this business for the middle school and high school kid.
Yeah.
And I'll get into my story in a minute, but man, I just have a real passion for great coaching, because when you're in that, 12, 13, 14, 15 age, like, your coaches are so impactful in your life.
Yeah.
And I had a coach pull me aside and I was like, man, I want to give that to every kid, in America. I want every kid to be able to experience amazing, inspiring and motivating coaching.
Yeah.
And help them get, reach their goals. So, that's what we started with. Now, what it's morphed into, we have rookies ages 7 to 11. We have Devos ages 7 to 12. And then 13 and up is our prep groups. And then we also do adults. We had all these adults go, man, I want to feel like a D1 athlete again. So I want to get in there and train. And so we have a lot of adults. Currently, right now, 61% of kind of the revenue of the business comes from scholastic athletes, would be that ages 7 to 18.
Yeah.
And then adults would be the other 39%. We do train a lot of pro athletes and collegiate athletes. We kind of throw them in the adult bucket.
Yeah.
We do have several of them in there. I was just looking out on the turf. I walked in here, and our headquarters is in our building here in Nashville. I walked in. I was looking out there, and we had a Titans player out there. And I was like, I knew he
Really?
just signed a mega contract. And I was like, I looked out there. I was like, that's a dude who signed a mega contract. He's grinding. He's out there just grinding, getting after it right
Yeah.
now.
Probably got a little extra pep in his step
Little pep
after
in his step.
inking that
Well,
contract. But
I love it. I love it because that's the mentality, right? It's like, hey, I don't get paid and go sit on the couch. I get paid and then I go to work even harder.
that's
So,
right. Yep. And that's what's gonna get him in a position to sign the next big
yeah.
contract. Yeah, it's such a cool concept. And like I work with a ton of different brands and plenty of them in the fitness space, but like this is unique by far. And for those listening, I'm gonna put some links in the show notes. Like go check out their website, go check out social media, like so you can actually see what some of these facilities look like. It literally looks like a D1 programs, weightlifting and training facility. Like that's no joke. And I mean, I can only imagine like as a kid, being able to come and work with a good, inspiring, motivating coach in a facility like that. I mean, it would have just been the most exciting thing that I would have ever done. And I spent plenty of time playing sports and, getting outside coaching and outside training, but never in a place like D1.
Yeah.
They didn't have D1s in my neck of the woods when I was coming up.
They didn't have them in mine either. Yeah,
So,
Peyton Manning had the best quote. He's like, man, if if I had this when I was 13, 14 years old, who knows what I would have become? And I was like, Bud, you did pretty well. Like,
yeah.
You did pretty well. I don't think you needed us.
You
But
did pretty good with the hand you were dealt there,
I
Peyton.
appreciate the love though.
So talk about that, and I want to give you a chance to share some of your backstory because from what I know, it's a really interesting story. But you mentioned Peyton Manning, you mentioned professional athletes, like one's literally working out in your headquarters right now. I mean, I know you guys have some really big names, in the professional athlete world that are franchisees themselves or partnered with the brand in some form or fashion. So share a little bit of that and like how did some of that come to be? Because to me, that's a testament, right? Like I know Tim Tebow is affiliated with D1, and I think people that know Tim Tebow, like he's not going to get involved with something just for a check, right? Like it's got to be something that he believes in, is aligned with his core values. So how did some of those relationships come to be? I'm curious.
Yeah. So, my background is I played a little football. I played a great position called fullback. I don't know if
Yeah.
anybody knows what a fullback is. There's not many of us out there.
Yeah.
So I was Peyton's fullback at the University of Tennessee. And when I started the business, I had just blown out my knee with the Denver Broncos. Started this business, really a give back. I wanted, hey, I want to create a business that I wish I had when I was, coming up. And I got it through a great strength coach at my high school. But I was like, man, there's so many athletes out there. And so
Yeah.
started the business. And we had, because of kind of the DNA of who we are, we had a ton of great athletes coming in and going, man, I need a little extra. I want to do this. And so we had a ton of great athletes coming and training with us. Tim Tebow happened to be one of those. He was coming out of the University of Florida before the NFL draft and trained with us in preparation. He ended up getting, first round draft pick and just, man, all of those athletes, they train with us and then they said, hey, I'd love to get involved with the business. Right. Several of our franchisee owners, they trained with us, went in the NFL or in the NBA or Major League Baseball, and then came back and said, hey, I'd like to be a part of it. And so just feel real honored in that, Chris Paul, who's one of our partners. Let me also give you context. I have 12 celebrity athlete partners that are part of the parent company. So
Gotcha.
that part of the
Okay.
company that I run. And then we have several owners that, own franchises.
Okay.
And
Got it.
Chris Paul is one of our guys. He was in there training, and his team reached out and said, "Hey, we love this. He loves it. He's really passionate about giving back to his community,
Yeah.
and we see this as a community give back, like a community." And I'm like, "That's exactly the heart that we want, man. We want to serve these athletes." Well, I love making money. Like there's no doubt I love making money, but at the end of the
Yeah.
day, I
Yeah.
know the money doesn't come unless you give first. And so you got to give, and give.
Hey everyone, we'll get right back to the episode, but I wanted to quickly share a free resource with you. If you're curious about franchise ownership and want to learn more about how countless people, including myself, have leveraged franchising as a way to create more freedom for themselves and to take control of their livelihood, I've put together an ebook. It's called Franchise Wealth Creation, and it's the perfect starting point for anyone that's just curious to learn more about this whole franchise thing and how I've helped hundreds of other people navigate all the steps involved in understanding and researching franchising. So click the link in the show notes, fill out a short form. I'll send you the ebook. I think it's a great starting point if you're curious at all about learning more about franchising. All right, let's get back to the episode. Yeah, and I think once you embrace that mindset, the profit and everything that you want out of business, like it's gonna come. And
Right.
if you force it, if you take the opposite mindset of that and say, hey, I'm gonna get into this business because I want to make a ton of money, and it may not be the best service or best product that I could offer, but I'm able to cut some corners here, and that's gonna help me make more money. It'll come back to bite you at some point. So I totally agree with that philosophy, and it's common amongst successful entrepreneurs that have built great businesses. And I mean, just as you were talking, like my wheels were turning, right? Because you got guys like Tim Tebow that now he's involved on the business side, right? But he came and trained there going into the NFL draft, right? Like a guy like Tim Tebow, guys like Chris Paul, they've got access to like the best training facilities in the world, right?
Yeah.
So again, a testament to like the actual facility and training programs that you guys are offering. So, I've got 3 kids. I've got 2 daughters, but my middle kid is my son, right? He's 3 years old.
Yeah.
He's in the 98th percentile for height, 95th percentile for weight, and he's throwing left-handed. So, and
Let's
I was a
go.
baseball player, not good enough to, even spend any time there, but, definitely sitting here dreaming big, like, yo, if this kid really decides he wants to do sports, like he's got the physique to be an athlete. And like, how cool is it to be a parent and know that like there are places like this you can send your kid that are world-class enough that professional athletes with access to whatever training they want, are still coming and training at a
Yeah,
place like
that's right.
D1.
And I think you bring up a great point there. Like, I think as a parent, so I got 3 kiddos myself. 2 of them are Division I athletes, and as a parent, we look back and go, man, we just want to optimize and get better. We want to improve, right? And so
Yeah,
we want to be able to look at our kids and go, hey, we want to put you in an environment that you can improve, have it better than what I
absolutely.
had.
Yeah.
And for me, improvement might be, hey, we just want you to make the team instead of getting cut, right? We
Yeah.
just want you
Yeah.
to be more confident when you step out there with your
100%.
teammates. It's not always, hey, I'm going D1, right? Or
Nope.
I'm going to play professional. It's, I mean, I would compare us to very much, we're athletic tutoring, right? So you come to us to get better, to go out and compete just a little bit better. And if you think of tutoring, all those, all the kids that go to a math tutor, you have the kids that are like, excelling. They're beyond, what
Yeah.
they're getting in school, but you have a ton of kids that need to go to math tutoring just to keep up.
Yeah.
And man, to be a safe haven for those athletes to come in to train. And I use the words at the beginning of this of inspiring and motivating, because I just think that's so important. Like
Yeah.
coaches can cripple kids' aspirations, and we don't want to do that. We want people to come in here and go, man, I can do whatever if I put in the work.
Yeah, 100%. That's such a good point. Like, you talk about confidence, right? So like my kids are younger, and I think that's like, if there's one thing I can do for my kids, it's teach them how to be confident, right? Because that's going to impact every single aspect of their life for the rest of their lives. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, I want people to understand like what you guys have built at D1. It's not really geared for like the overbearing baseball dad that's got the 3-year-old kid and's like, my kid's gonna be in the majors, like just watch and see. And he's like forcing his kid to live, breathe, and eat baseball his entire life. But it's, if you've got a kid and they're into sports, you're giving them access to a really, really good resource. Just like if you have a kid that's, really great at music, right? And you're paying for, great music lessons or a great place where they can go and continue to learn and develop their musical abilities. And because I'm sure, you guys have turned out quite a few, college and professional athletes that came through D1, but it's probably not the majority if I had to guess, right? But it's just a
Yeah,
way
that's
that
right.
parents can lean into their kids and support the interest that they have.
Yeah, and I think the interesting thing you said there is about, you didn't talk about how much weight someone was lifting or how fast they ran or how much body fat they lost. You talked about confidence.
Yeah.
And I think that's so important because the business we're building, um, and the mission that I'm on, the mission is to put these safe havens, these gyms called D1, where you can bring your athlete in there, and it is like, yeah, you're going to work out, you're going to get faster, you're going to get stronger, you're going to lose body fat, but that's really not why we're here. We're here to instill what we call D1 character. It's
Mm.
one of our core values. We have 12 words on the wall of every D1.
Okay.
So, we have 120 something locations open right now. And if you walk in every single one, you're going to see words like perseverance, respect,
Mm.
fearless, confidence,
Yeah.
discipline.
Yeah. It's a
You're
big
going to
one.
see those because to me, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to shape these athletes to go, this is what it's all about. It's about developing this character because that's going to serve you the rest of your life. Whether you go pro, you go D1 or you stop in high school or middle school, it doesn't matter. That's going to serve you whether you're in your job or whatever, right? And so
Yeah.
we want D1 to be that in every community.
Yeah. And that's huge, right? And I have no doubt that's probably the primary reason that the business has gone on to be as successful as it is. And it kind of goes back to what you talked about earlier with, having an important why that's much bigger than just making money, right?
Yeah,
And it's, giving back to the community, really helping these kids. And like I hadn't put as much thought into this until, you talked about like your one strength coach that was so inspiring and motivating to you. But then you can also have coaches that are crippling, right? And can
yeah,
wreck a kid's confidence. Like I had some coaches, like nothing terrible, right? That was like, really impacted me negatively. But like I definitely had coaches that were not inspiring and not motivating. And
yeah,
like I wasn't the biggest kid, or the strongest kid. And I'm not that today either, but I can remember being compared to guys that could bench press twice as much as I could, and you didn't feel great after that. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So like I think that's important, right? Because it's kind of just like with school. You have options for your kids, right? You can just not really pay attention to what your kids are learning and being taught in school and hope that it's good, or you can be a little more involved. And if you see an opportunity where maybe you can supplement a little bit in areas that they're not getting as much or getting the right direction, this is that. And I love that you guys have such a focus on these characteristics that are gonna, be with these kids for the rest of their life, regardless of where they go with sports.
yeah. I mean, once again, I mean, yeah, I look at my kids, I look at uh, the impact that these coaches make on someone's life. And that is, to me, that's like it's a gift and it's a responsibility.
Mm.
And to
Yeah.
me, I feel the weight of responsibility of going, hey, I'm trying to impact coaching across the country. I'm trying to impact, so many athletes out there that might give up, but if they get a great coach, they're not going to, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I really feel that we just did a little event, and Tim was there, and I asked him a question, and I caught it on camera, which was the best part about it. They were filming, and I was like, "Hey, what would you tell that coach that's going to bed tonight, that's got to get up and coach, our 5 a.m. workout? We got kids showing up at 4:30 a.m. to work out
Yeah.
before school." I go, "What would you tell that coach who's tired?" And man, he's been grinding. He goes, "Man, I would tell that coach when he goes to bed to think about all those kids he's going to be training at 5 a.m. Right now, they're saying a prayer. And their prayer is that you, the coach, are the person that's going to help them realize their dream."
Wow.
And he said, I want them to be thinking about that, because when they put their head down, they show up in the morning, they need to bring that energy because they're helping that kid realize their dream.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, that is so good. I
That's
loved it because I got it on camera. But
that.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's what we're in the business for.
It's a
That's what we're in
great
the business for.
soundbite, but super impactful, and like, you know, if those coaches can go into every single class or session with that mindset, and it's a crazy thought. Like, think about some of the best athletes that have ever played professional sports. Think about how many people out there maybe could have been just as good, if not better, but they didn't have the right inspiration and motivation and access to coaches that could really not just help them learn the sport, but develop the characteristics that are necessary to go on and be successful and perform at a high level. Like, there's got to be so many people out there that just never reach their full potential because they didn't have some of these things.
That's right. I mean, access is everything, right?
Yeah.
And then building habits. Um,
Hmm.
one of the things we're really big on is like, hey, we got to build great habits. We have to have great warm ups to have a great workout, right? We have to cool down the right way to have a great finish to the workout to set you up for the rest of the day. And so we're
Yeah.
always teaching habits. We're always teaching habits and reinforcing them day in and day out, because that's what training is. I mean, you're training
Yeah.
your body and your mind to man, enjoy kind of the hard work, like
Yes.
enjoy it. That's why I said we got to have banging music. We got to have great music.
Yeah. Yeah.
and,
You
uh,
got to have
and
some fun with it. It makes it easier,
and
especially when you don't feel like doing it.
that's right. And when you're around great people and you're having
Yeah.
fun, right? You're
Totally.
having fun. You're enjoying it. You're building great habits. Man, that's what this place is all about.
Yeah.
We're gonna bring the. If you come into a D1, we bring the juice every day. We bring the juice, and so we want it to be just really impactful for all these athletes. We call our adults athletes. So when I say an athlete, it's anyone who's dedicated, to their sport or fitness. It's anyone who's got a goal, right?
I'm curious. So what do you see most adults come in for? Are they like already in pretty good shape and they just want access to a great facility and the environment in terms of the, like you said, the music? Do they just want the juice, or are they people that really need to make some improvements in their fitness, and that's why they're coming in?
You know, I, when people come in, when adults come in, we find a lot of times what they come in for is not what they stay for.
Mm,
So they'll come in and go, "Hey, I want to lose this body fat. I got a wedding coming up, right? It's bikini season or it's beach season. I want to
yeah.
get a 6-pack, right?"
Yeah.
So you'll come in and you're like, "Hey, I've seen your other members have these results. I'd like to have that." And so they usually come in for that, and then what they end up staying for is, the community, those
Hmm.
character words on the wall, and they really like find that, like, if you're reaching a goal, you keep coming back to that place.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
similar to you in franchising, right? Like if you're awarding someone a franchise and that franchise goes great, right? And
Yeah.
man, they're crushing it and they're on their path to freedom. They're coming
Yeah.
back
Yeah.
to you going, "Hey, what else you got, Wes? What else
That's
you
right.
got?" And it's
Yeah.
the same thing with us.
Yeah.
Like we find they come in maybe for one thing and then they're like, "Man, I reached my goal. I want more."
And then I bet they're referring people to you, right? And they start getting results and people start seeing like, man, what are you doing? You look great since the last time I saw you. And
Right.
it's infectious. Yeah, having that culture is important, and I think a lot of, like, if we're talking franchising specifically, a lot of franchisors are probably not as intentional as they should be about like, what do they really want their culture to be? And then you even see some franchisors that are, but they don't do as good of a job, really I guess relaying that to their franchisees so that the franchisees can instill the same type of culture in their local location, right?
That's
So
right.
like, seems like you guys have done a really good job where, someone walks into a D1 anywhere in the country, it's going to be a very similar vibe and experience, and they're going to get the juice, right? No matter
Yeah.
no matter which D1 they walk into. Do you mind talking a little bit about like, how you've been able to successfully kind of instill that culture and that mindset across, because what'd you say, 120 locations now? Like
That's
the
right.
bigger you
Yeah.
get, the harder it is to maintain consistency, especially in
That's
things
right.
like culture.
Yeah. So little adage like to live by, which is, culture eats strategy for breakfast, right?
Love it.
Like you
Love
can
it.
have all the
Yeah.
strategy in the world, but if the culture isn't right, man, we're not going to get there. And so
Yeah.
culture above everything. We are really clear on our mission and what we're doing. We're really clear on our value system and how we're going to do it. We have 4 core values that everybody in the whole company knows. And they're simple, just to give you a little, they're simple. And so for us, when you have that mission and you have that values in which we live by, then it's okay. How are we going to put these into action? Right? How are we going to put these into action? And we do it through a nice cadence. And this is the strategy side of things, but like we do it through a nice cadence. We're talking to our franchisees weekly. Um, we do a monthly owners call where we rattle off our core values and we give out an actual game ball. It's actually
Nice.
like I always loved the footballs when I was playing, the painted up ones. So we give out a
Oh
game
yeah.
ball every month to one of our
That's cool.
franchisees who lives out our core values. We share stories that happen within the facilities that live out our value system. So once again, that just fosters it.
Yeah.
And so when you're talking about it, you're awarding to it. And then I'll say kind of 2 kind of tough things is we're accountable to it in the sense we fire to it
Yeah. Yeah.
because
You have
like,
to.
man, everybody knows our value system. They know, man, I've had some really talented people with me that just aren't here anymore. And it's
Yeah.
because that value system reigns. And it's about the business. It's not about me and my personal feelings, but it's,
Yeah.
and those are hard decisions. And we've had to get some franchisees out because
Yeah.
they didn't have it, and so what we're constantly trying to do, what I tell all the franchisees, especially when we award, and we're very picky on who we award franchises to
Yeah.
because they got to
Yeah.
have that value system because they have to be able to take that culture to your point in that marketplace and
Hmm.
hire and instill that as well.
Yep. Yeah. You've got to be selective with your franchisees, and this is something I spend a lot of time coaching, my candidates or the people that I work with, because I think it's, for some people at least, a little bit counterintuitive. They approach, doing due diligence with a franchise brand like they would if they're walking into a timeshare pitch,
Yeah.
right? Where they think they're just going to get sold, sold, sold. And it's like, look, there are franchises out there that do it that way. And if you're feeling like you're in a timeshare pitch, run the other direction, because the great franchise companies out there don't need to sell you, right? They
Right.
understand that you have questions and you need to gather information before you can make an educated decision for yourself. But they have questions about you. They need to gather information about you and learn enough to feel confident that you're going to be a good fit for their business. I think with the really good franchisors out there, it's the culture piece that they're looking most closely at, right? Because I'm going to go out on a limb here and say, you don't need all of your franchisees to have been former professional or D1 athletes,
No.
right? So you don't necessarily need that they have the athletic background. They need to have some business skills and some business acumen, right? But with the tools and the systems and the support that an established brand like D1 has, most of that stuff can be taught to someone that's coachable and willing to learn. You can't teach the culture piece as much. So, and it's always been interesting to me how when I walk my people through this, you can like see the wheels turning in their head where they're like, oh, I guess I never really thought that like I was getting vetted too. I thought I was just kind of going through this process and these brands were gonna, dance for me and
Yeah.
hopefully win me as a franchisee. So it's interesting that you bring that up, and I think it's important, and you guys have clearly done a good job of that, because of the culture that D1 has today. So with that, talk to me a little bit more, like what is your ideal franchisee? And kind of a bad question, right? Because I'm sure you have franchisees all different types of backgrounds, but like what are some of the, other than the culture piece, which we've already kind of talked about, like what are some of the things that you're most looking for in a franchisee that you feel is going to be a really good fit? Hey everyone, we'll be right back to the episode, but one quick note, success doesn't happen in a vacuum. So if you'd like to learn more, you want to go deeper and interact with like-minded people, I'd love to have you join the free Path to Freedom Facebook group. You can join by going to pathtofreedom.com/group and become a part of the Path to Freedom community. All right, back to the episode.
Yeah, it's interesting because one of the reasons franchising so beautiful is you want that entrepreneurial spirit. You want that entrepreneurs, but you want them to be able to come in and follow a system and a playbook that you've put together. So
can't have too much ego.
Man, the number one thing is can you be coachable and follow the playbook?
Yep.
Can you be coachable and follow the playbook? Because if you can do that, I mean, we've done it 100 something times. Like, we know what we're doing. Number two, what we love is a great relationship. And a great relationship doesn't mean you accept everything we say. There's iron sharpening iron. It's one of ours on the wall. Like there's some conversations that we need to have, but we need to have it in a healthy, positive manner to get the business better and to get us better. And that's just being accountable and being in a great relationship. And then the last one that I think of when I meet every franchisee is, and I'm going back to the culture pieces. Do you have our value system? Do you have our value system? Because at the end of the day, if they have our value system, they're going to create that culture where great people want to work for them.
Yeah.
The number one risk in owning a D1, the number one is, do great people want to work for that franchisee?
Yep.
Because we'll have rock stars. And if that rock star is working for someone who can't create a great culture, they're going to leave. And it's like, we got to have great people. And it used to be, when I first started franchising, I used to say, can you hire great people? We got all the hiring stuff figured out. People are coming to us. We got a whole thing.
Can you keep them is the thing.
We have a whole system. Yeah. Can you keep them, and do they want to work for you?
Yeah. So you need your franchisees to be inspiring and motivating, just like you need your coaches to be inspiring and motivating. And that's, like I was having this conversation today. I told you when we first got on, I've got This great couple. They just got back from a brand's discovery day, and they're going through all the normal emotions, right?
Right.
I call it FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt, right? Like
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
stuff's banging around in their heads right now. And, they keep asking questions about, because they've got access to the FDD and some of the item 19 information that's in there, and they see some franchises that aren't doing that well. The
Yeah.
majority seem like they've got a great business and upward trajectory and all of that. So we talked through like why some franchisees don't do well in a brand where there's plenty of examples of other franchisees doing very well. And my point to them was like, look, in my experience, 9 times out of 10, it's a franchisee issue, right? Not that they're in a market where the business doesn't work, or these other 50 franchisees got lucky and me and these 2 other franchisees, or, the business doesn't work. So, but it comes down to leadership, right? Does the franchisee have leadership potential? Do they know how to build a team? And to your point, like good franchisors are going to offer a lot of support in the areas of recruiting, helping you identify like what type of person should I be looking for to fill these different roles, training, all of that. It's the keeping them part, right? Where
Yeah.
some people excel, other people don't, and that's going to make or break your business. And it's not even necessarily that like you're gonna lose money and have to shut the business down, but you're definitely not going to get the freedom that you're looking for in business ownership if you're constantly having to battle turnover, right? Like you still may be able to turn a profit, but you're going to have a lot of headaches. It's going to be far more stressful, less enjoyable. And, you're probably just running around putting out a lot of fires as the owner if you can't build a good team that, is inspired and motivated to go do a great job for you.
That's right. And I tell all our franchisees, hey, you win in the draft. You win in the draft, right? You draft, you might draft, Tom Brady in the 6th, 7th round. But you know what? If you draft Patrick Mahomes, you're going to win some games. You're going to win a
Yeah.
lot. But then the question is now you look at like Patrick Mahomes, he had those years to develop. He won Super Bowl. Like they're keeping him, right? They're
Mm-hmm.
keeping great talent around him. They're keeping great people that he wants to play with. Um,
Yeah.
and so you go, man, keeping him is really important. Is a really important skill, and you got to create that culture. People want to grow. People want to have a path. People want to be seen. And so, man, making sure you have those systems in place to do that. But then the culture has got to reign. The culture has
Yeah.
got to reign.
Yeah, it's such a good point, and that's a really good analogy. Winning in the draft, and you may have one superstar, but if you don't invest in putting other good people around that superstar, they're going to leave. And
Yeah.
I got to tell you, man, you guys have done such a good job with incorporating like football and sports terminology into to your business, right? Where, like most brands call it a discovery day or a confirmation day, and you guys call it recruiting day.
Yeah.
What do you call like new franchisee training? It's training camp
Yeah.
or,
Training
or
camp.
something like
Yep.
that, right? Yeah, I
Yep.
love the
And
way that you've incorporated
the playbooks
yeah,
are LMS. Yeah.
yeah. I love it, man.
Thanks, man.
Very cool. But so, for those listening that this has kind of perked their ears up a little bit and they're like, man, this sounds interesting. Um, Quickly, if you don't mind, because I don't want to keep you for too much longer, but I know there's probably some questions that are top of mind for anyone that's listening to this and saying, okay, this sounds interesting. Run us through like what does a typical session look like? Say my 8-year-old kid I'm signing him up for D1s. I think you mentioned earlier it's an 8-week program.
Yeah.
Run us kind of through what does that look like? What happens at the end of the 8 weeks if I want them to get more of that? How's it kind of structured?
Yeah. So first off, you come in here, we do an assessment on every athlete that walks in. So we
Okay.
have an assessment. So we would take your kid through an assessment. We'd sit you down, and based on what you tell us, we have questions that we prompt you with. we're going to prescribe you what we think. So we prescribe you in, you can consume D1 training in 3 different ways. You can
Okay.
consume it in large group training. So your son would be in like, our Devo class, right? So where he's training with up to 36 other kids at once. Or you can choose to go to semi-private, which maybe he's got 3 buddies, so 4 people with 1 coach. Or he can do
Okay.
D one-on-one. Any of our skill specific stuff. So say you came in, you're like, hey, I want him to have a specific baseball pitcher program. We're going to be like, okay, we don't deliver that in a large group. We can do it in semi-private and one-on-one if he's got a couple buddies I want to do.
Makes sense.
So, and they're at different price points based on, right,
Sure.
what you're consuming. Now, when you come in, we're going to prescribe you a workout program based on what you told us. And that workout program is going to follow an 8-week cycle. Now, if you jump into the large group class, you're going to get inserted on what week you come in. So you might be inserted on week 4. Every 8 weeks, we test. So we do testing.
Okay.
So we have testing based for adults in scholastics where you're going to come in and we're going to measure you because we want to make sure you're reaching your goals.
Yeah.
Right? We want to make sure you're reaching your goals.
Progress, right?
And showing you progress.
Yeah.
So that's every 8 weeks. That's how you're going to consume it. And man, it's a real honor to watch these people come in here and, they get in and they're like, man, I had a goal to do this, and then they hit it and they're like, man, I want to go even more. Right. And so that's to me, the exciting part of what we do.
There's nothing like for me with my kids. Like my oldest is 7 and she's gotten into competitive dance, and like my 3-year-old just started t-ball, and it is not even organized chaos. It's just chaos. Hilarious. But it's a lot of fun to see, like, he swings the bat and it actually makes contact with the ball, and he turns and he's like, did you see that? I'm like, I saw that. Go run to first.
Yeah.
It's very, very rewarding. And so it sounds like you guys do have options, at least for sport and even skill specific training.
We do.
Is there just could D1 make sense for any kid, even if they don't have a particular sport that they want to focus on, or is it just a handful of sports that you guys are able to do this specialized kind of coaching and training on?
Yeah, think bigger, faster, stronger for every athlete. So when you come in here, we're the workout piece to your sport. So for instance, if you come in and you're like, hey, I want my son to learn how to hit the golf ball, we're not going to put a golf club in his hand. We're going to do a workout program that's tailored towards golf in a one-on-one setting. Now, all of our workouts do follow our 5-star workout program. So we have 5 parts of every workout. Doesn't matter if you're one-on-one, semi-private, or large group, which is we do a dynamic warm-up. We do performance, and performance could be, if you're a football athlete, it might be flying 40-yard dashes, right?
Yeah.
If it's an adult program, it might be, it might be like battle ropes, to strengthen the lower back for sitting in chairs all day long, right?
Yeah.
And then we do the third part of the workout, strength. And that's when we go to the weight room. And depending on the day, it's either upper, lower, or full body and exercises. And then we do conditioning every day. And then we finish with a cool down stretch and a breakdown. And so it really follows the NSCA, which is the National Strength and Conditioning Association. We follow their 5 parts of a workout. And so when you come in, every athlete's going to experience that. And what's really cool with us is every workout is different every day. You're never going to get the same workout the same day.
Yeah.
Now, you might do the same exercises.
Right.
But you're going to follow a periodization program, which a periodization program, that's why we do it in 8-week cycles, is you start at period A and you go to period B. So you are going to have some recovery days so your body can recover and go up. The average consumer comes to us 3.5 times a week. So we love for athletes to come 4 times because we can get some great results.
Yeah, that was my next question. And that's important. Like when you start analyzing, different fitness businesses, right? Especially anywhere there's a membership component, or the way you guys have it structured with these 8-week programs, the programming of the workouts is actually very important. A lot of people don't understand that until they dive a little deeper into some of these business models, because obviously if you're looking at it from a unit economic standpoint, the more often your clients are coming in, right, the more
More.
revenue,
That's right.
the more benefit they're going to get too, right? As long as they're actually getting value from coming in more times in a week than if they just came in once. So, the more variety that you have, the higher the likelihood they're going to come back. And I like that you guys have so much structure behind how you're developing or designing these programs, right?
Yeah.
Which kind of leads me to my next question, right? And we've already talked a little bit from the franchise owner's perspective, the importance of attracting and retaining talented people to work for you. You kind of alluded to the fact that you guys are able to support your franchisees in these efforts. Like, what does a franchisee need in terms of the actual trainers or coaches that you guys have? Are there certain certifications or qualifications that these coaches need? Are they able to get all of that through D1's training? Like, what's kind of I don't know if profile is the right word, but like who should a franchisee be looking to hire for a coach? We'll get right back to the episode in just a minute, but if you've been considering business ownership, if you're already a business owner looking to expand and you're curious about franchising, I'd love to connect with you, answer any initial questions that you have, talk about a specific franchise, and detail the exact process that I use and have taken hundreds of people through to help them understand franchise ownership, find the right franchise for them, and conduct the necessary due diligence. Click the link in the show notes if you'd like to schedule a free, no obligation strategy call. I look forward to talking with you. And now back to the episode.
Yeah, first of all, man, we have some amazing coaches in our system. I just, if any of the coaches out there listening, we have some of the best out there in the country. And I think it's because I think we attract, because of that value system, just so many people that want to inspire and motivate. So it really starts with your heart, right? It starts with your heart. Now, when you get into actually that practicality, every one of our coaches has to have an outside certification from D1.
Okay.
Now, we will allow hiring of a coach that doesn't. So say they're a former D1 soccer player and we're going to hire them within the system and they don't have their outside cert, but they have to have a path to get that outside cert.
Okay.
And then they have to go through a D1 certification. We have an in-house certification. So we actually certify you on how to run a D1 workout as well. So you'll have two certifications, which is really important to make sure we have first-class coaching. But I think it starts with, I talked about winning in the draft. I think it starts with, our franchisees knowing when they're picking their coaching staff, what right looks like, and making sure they understand like what they're trying to attract. I like to say we like to hire coaches that are like, they're extremely knowledgeable, but they're like part WWE wrestler. I want like a coach that like, man, he's humble, he's kind, but man, when he gets on that turf, I mean, it's like,
he can turn it on.
Yeah, he's like Ric Flair out there, like, woo! He's just getting fired
bringing
up.
the juice, right? They got to be able to bring the juice.
I mean, that's what you want to be entertained. You want to be entertained, and so
for sure, right? Especially if you're kids, right? Attention spans and stuff like that. Like, you've got to find ways, I imagine, to make it fun and exciting while also hitting all these these 5 different components of the workout. What is it, about a 60-minute session typically?
54 minutes, man. 54 minutes. Yeah, we're timed. We love some tempo and transition and making sure we're right on the clock. Our coaches wear whistles, stopwatches. It's a true D1 environment. You walk in, our adults always laugh. They're like, man, I haven't heard somebody blow a whistle at me since gym class when I was, and I was like, yes. That's what
Yeah.
we want. We want you,
I need to make sure my wife doesn't listen to this one. Next thing I know, she's gonna have a whistle that she's blowing at me when when she needs me to do something.
Yep, that's
Josh,
it.
edit that part out, brother. Um, so that's cool, man. It's a really neat model. So I mean, it sounds like look, a lot of people getting into business for themselves. One of the biggest concerns is, how can I find good people, right? And we've already talked about really the important thing is keeping good people, but sounds like it's not a huge challenge that your franchisees are struggling to find good people, right? It's up to them to keep those good people. Are all of your coaches at least D1 athletes or previously D1 athletes, or is that not a requirement?
That's not a requirement. It's a nice to have, not a must to
Yeah,
have.
yeah,
Love hiring former D1 athletes. Obviously, that was my path, and so
yeah,
I love if they can transition that skill set and bring it in and coach. But no, absolutely not. We have great coaches that didn't play anything beyond maybe a high school level, and so um, our big thing on that is like, man, you just got to know the person, right? Does the person fit the culture?
yeah,
And that's why that culture piece is so important, and that value system is so important because, man, we can teach a lot of things, but you got to have that first. That's permission to play.
yeah. And it's the thing. I mean, look, my wife and I own a franchise. We sold another franchise business last November, and not nearly, as cool or fun a business to talk about as D1. We're doing dirty, unsexy service businesses, and the biggest thing that we've learned, we got into our first franchise like 6 years ago, is that you cannot train personality or work ethic or culture, right? You can
Yeah.
train for pretty much everything else, right? And so like we learned that lesson the hard way a few times over the years, where we had someone that, on paper or even in person, standing in front of you, they had the skill set, right? And you're like, man, this person's great for this, right? And then
Yeah.
2 weeks into it, 2 months into it, however long it takes, you start realizing like this person's just a jerk, or they're not
Yeah.
coachable, or they can't follow a process, and they're clearly not coachable in that regard. Like we would much rather have the person that's a little more green in terms of the skill set, but is hungry to learn, is going to be coachable, and they've got the right mentality to be a good culture fit for what we're looking for. So I think
Yeah.
that's
It's when you were talking about that, I just had this like unique. So we've been around a long time. I started the business 22 years ago.
oh wow.
We've had
When you
multiple iterations. We did corporate gyms for
oh
15 years.
okay.
I built a
I
physical
didn't know
therapy
that.
business, a real estate business. And what's really cool, what's happening now is, man, we have so many athletes that trained with us as youth athletes in high school, middle school, college that are coming back and being coaches for us.
Yeah, how
And
cool is
that's
that?
like the true testament. Like, man, somebody want to coach, and they'll be like, hey, yeah, this coach poured into my life. Our director of coaching at our franchisor, who oversees all the programming and everything, um, uh, our former director of coaching trained him when he was in high school and
No
college.
way.
So now he's
Wow.
become, so it's just really cool.
That is so cool. That's incredible. And I didn't realize you guys have been around for that long. And I mean, hell, when you said you had two kids that are D1 athletes, I'm sitting there like, this guy looks younger than me. Like, I got to go get into D1. So
It's the
if you're
blonde
doing the
hair.
D1
It's the
workouts,
blonde hair.
that's a testament to their effectiveness, I guess. But man, really, really fascinating. I could chat with you for hours more about this stuff, but I know you're a busy guy, and I really appreciate you making time. Is there, as we kind of close this out, I guess my final question to you would be, is there anything that I did not ask you about today that you wish I would have, or anything you'd like to leave the listeners with before we wrap this one up?
Man, I just want to say thank you. Thanks for having me on. Super grateful. I said it at the beginning, but like, man, I am on a mission. I'm on a personal mission to put these everywhere because of the coaching. Because there's, these athletes need to be served. I do think coaching is like, man, it's the greatest act of service. If you think about
Yeah.
it, a coach knows how to do it, probably can do it better than the athlete, but is willing to set their ambition aside to teach someone else. That's just an amazing act of service. And so
Yeah.
I really
It's a
feel
great
like we're
point.
serving people. And so, yeah, I'm on a mission to put those everywhere. And I just appreciate you having me on to share the story because, when there's people out there that are looking for great businesses, and there's tons of them. There's tons of great franchises.
Sure. Yeah.
And I think when they cross paths with people like you that can educate and go, hey, listen, what do you really want out of this? What do you, and really try to get to the why on why
Yeah.
they're
That's the
doing
key,
this is
man. That's
so
the key.
important. It's
Yeah.
so important. It makes our job easier. You
Yeah.
bring some great candidates and makes life better for the candidate. And so just
Yeah,
appreciate you
man.
doing
That's
this and helping people find their path to freedom.
Yeah, brother. Yeah, brother. Well, look, man, I love your mission, the mission that D1's on. You guys are well on your way. 100 plus locations, so that's fantastic, but that also means I imagine you've still got a lot of availability, in really great locations, and you just need the right franchise partner. So, for those listening, look, if you're interested in D1 for yourself or maybe one of your kids, we'll link the website in the show notes. If, you think this is an interesting business opportunity and think you may want to learn more about it, you can certainly reach out directly to D1, but I'd be happy to talk with you as well. And like Will said, it's important to really drill down into, what's your why? What do you want to get out of business ownership before, we jump to what types of businesses, do you really want to look into? But Will, awesome businessman, awesome story. Keep up the good work and keep doing what you guys are doing to, help create, inspiration and motivation for these kids. I don't think there's anything, more important that we can do for kids coming up behind us.
It's awesome, man. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. My pleasure. Hey, everyone.